My leadership story is based on my current workplace at the UCR Career Center, and the protagonist for this story is my peer, the on-campus job coordinator. And so this coordinator likes to assign student employees work very often without notifying their supervisor and just utilizing them as if they were her own. And the student supervisors realized that she was conducting this business, and I had conversation with her, sat down with her and talked about it, but she continued to utilize the students as if they were her students and doing tasks that required them to leave their main job duties, which didn't settle right with myself and other student supervisors. And so we decided as student supervisors that we wanted to set a standard of what way the students would be tasked with their work and how they would take along what job duties each type of student at the office would conduct, ranging from the front desk assistants, which I supervise, to the social media assistant, to the peer advisors who have a more free range and can roam around the office and can do more tasks, to the other 3 or 4 students, employees that we have in the office. So the change idea was that all supervisors would meet and decide how the project should be assigned to determine the 2 types of projects for the office, large and small projects. Large projects would be assigned through the workfront system, so that the student supervisor could track the work that needed to be done, especially since if it's a large scale project where it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks or even a week's worth of time, and then a small project where it's based on, here, staple this, or do this small task that can be done within 1 business day. And that I think, was determined so far with the process improvement map that I've conducted. What happened with the change idea is we sat down as student supervisors to present, to each other and decide what we wanted. I presented the process improvement flow chart. Student supervisors had their input, decided what they really wanted. We're still having a follow-up meeting on that. It hasn't been set in stone, but we'll have 1 more meeting this upcoming week, and then have a presentation to the all staff in the all staff meeting. If we wouldn't have done this, I think the protagonist would continue to utilize the student employees as their own, when in fact the student employees are there to help everyone in the office, but they also have a main function, and their main function is to support their supervisor and the duties that are assigned to them. So we saw that it was she was taking over, making that their main priority, and not their main priority, their main function that they were hired to do. The protagonist had a lot of overcoming obstacles. They were just used to already going to the student, hey, do this for me. And when we intervened, she got very defensive and saying, what are they there for? Why can't they do this task for me? Why do they have to do this work front thing? I don't have time for it. She was very negative and didn't want to approach the work front issue, and didn't want to use the work front, but it was determined that it's something that we needed to look at and see if we did need to use it or not. Overall, the happy ending, I think, will happen within the next weeks or so to finally determine and finalize the process. I think she'll be okay with it, especially because most of her projects are small projects that she'll be able to continue to utilize the students. But she will still have to make sure she acknowledges the student supervisor, hey, your students did this, this, and this for me. Because if she doesn't, then it'll become a problem again, where we don't know what her student employees are doing, and if we don't know what work they're doing, how are we able to evaluate them at the end of the school year? Which is very important, I think, to the students, because they want to know how they performed and outperformed some of their ratings and their performance appraisals. And overall, this story, I think this originated pretty fairly recently, but it also ties into the Transformational Change Project as we move forward with implementing the student employee learning outcomes, and communication is one of them. And so this will be an important learning lesson for students. How do I communicate properly? How do I make sure the task that's assigned to me is communicated properly, nothing is missed and falls out of the scope of the person, because sometimes the supervisor that's working with you will forget, and you should be the person if it's your task to follow up. So it'll be an interesting method to continue to move forward with the students. I think they'll be excited to have a better communication plan that's going to help them overall in the process as we continue moving forward with the student-employee learning outcomes. And this story, this side project kind of fits into the overall TCP project